I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down. Oh, mothers, let's go down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way.
Good evening. My name is Hugo Walter. I am the executive editor of The Fulcrum, a nonpartisan digital platform dedicated to strengthening American democracy by fostering informed dialogue, civic engagement, and collaborative problem solving. Our mission is to create a space where both insiders and outsiders to politics can meet, talk, and act to repair democratic systems and make them more responsive to everyday lives. Through rigorous journalism, editorial integrity, and a commitment to solutions-oriented storytelling, the Fulcrum promotes civil discourse, intellectual honesty, and mutual understanding. The Fulcrum deeply values Rich Harwood's contributions because his work embodies the kind of civic renewal and community-centered leadership that journalism must amplify. Harwood's philosophy of turning outward and his campaign for the new civic path offer a blueprint for rebuilding trust, not through top-down mandates, but by empowering local communities to lead with shared purpose and moral imagination. In a time when polarization threatens the very fabric of our democracy, Harwood's insistence that real change begins in church basements, civic halls, and neighborhood libraries resonates with my own commitment to equity-driven storytelling and systemic transformation. His campaign isn't just a call to action, it's a movement to restore civic faith, reframe public narratives, and remind us that the path forward is one we must walk together. At the Fulcrum, and in my own work, we believe it is essential to support and elevate projects like Selma Beacon of Hope because they offer more than historical reflection. They provide a moral compass for the present. In a time of deep acrimony and political division, this documentary reminds us that real change begins in local communities through courageous conversations and shared purpose. Selma's legacy is not just about what happened in 1965. It's about what can happen now when people choose to step forward together. Rich Harwood's campaign for the new civic path, embodied in this film, calls us to reject divisive politics and reawaken our belief in one another and in our democracy. By lifting up stories like this, we help restore civic faith and chart a path forward, a more inclusive and hopeful future. Tonight is about more than watching a film, it's about reigniting a sense of possibility. Selma Beacon of Hope was created by the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation as a call to action, a reminder that even in times of division, communities can come together to forge a new civic path. Rich and his team made this documentary not just to honor Selma's legacy, but to illuminate how its lessons can guide us today. And now it is my pleasure to call on Rich Harwood, who will share why this story matters now, what inspired the film's creation, and how the evening ahead will invite us to reflect, connect, and imagine what's next for our communities and our democracy.
Hugo, thank you so much. I don't even know if I need to say anything after all your wonderful and eloquent comments. Let me just first thank you for the great work that the Fulcrum does. And we all know that our news ecology across our country has atrophied, and it's new ventures like the Fulcrum that's filling the vacuum that we need in the country. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the work that you all do day in and day out. And thank you for the perseverance that you exhibit each and every day. You know, this documentary today, this is a celebration of this documentary. It,
No later go bien.
it's
Todd?
part of, make sure you mute yourself, put yourself on mute if you can. It is part of, as Hugo mentioned, our campaign for the new civic path. I believe deeply that we face a crisis of belief in this country. When people talk about where we are as a country, they say that there's confusion and chaos, uncertainty. People talk about a sense of a weight on them, a sense of despair. And, I hear this from people regardless of who they voted for in the last election. And our belief at the Institute, and my belief, is that we need to act quickly to restore our sense of belief in ourselves and in one another, that we can actually come together, not as Republicans and Democrats and independents, but as Americans, more importantly, as people, as human beings. And as Hugo mentioned, the path forward is not more divisive politics. We know that. In fact, we believe that the change we need must begin in our local communities like Selma, and that we need to get on a new civic path. It's why I believe this campaign has taken off so fast. I've been on the road day in and day out all of this year. I am now on a full week tour. I'm taking a break tonight of a full week tour across the state of Virginia. And the message is resonating that we need to put people over politics, that we need to come together and heal this nation, and that we need to restore our sense of belief in ourselves and in one another, that we can actually come together and shape our own future together. Which leads to Selma, which is just a really exciting thing for us to talk about tonight. I've been going to Selma now for 3 or 4 years. And when we started to go down there, we never dreamed of producing a short film about the community and its relationship to the country. This film really grew out of a love that we came to hold for the people of Selma, the community of Selma, what's affectionately known as the spirit of Selma. And as Hugo mentioned, Selma holds an iconic place in American history. As we all know, the 1965 Voting Rights Act grew out of the activity and the civil rights action that occurred in Selma as people walked over the Edmund Pettus Bridge to Montgomery. But Selma is more than just a place of history. The bridge is more than just a museum. If it was part of a museum, you wouldn't be able to walk over it. You wouldn't be able to drive over it. And as we all know, bridges take us from one destination to another desired destination. And I think that bridge is alive. It speaks to us today. It is calling us today. It is calling us to go back over the bridge today. As Selma seeks to revitalize itself, Selma can once again be iconic for our nation. That together we can go back over the bridge, that together we can work on the work that remains unfinished in our country, that together we can ensure that not just some of us, but all of us can engage in this nation moving forward, and that each of us and all of us can fulfill our God-given potential and reach for our future. So tonight is the premiere, the national premiere of this. Last week, we wanted to honor Selma, so we were in Selma doing a local premiere, which we'll talk about later. Tonight's the national premiere. As you watch this short film, feel free, we encourage you to put reactions, your thoughts, your feelings in the chat, put questions that you might have about the community and where we're headed as a country. And we hope you enjoy this. We hope it inspires you. We hope that it reminds you both of our past and what we achieved back in 1965, but equally, I hope it reminds us of where we need to go as a country today moving forward. So here's the film, Selma, Beacon of Hope, and we look forward to speaking about it with three folks from Selma who are joining us tonight after we show this film. Thanks.
Where's your faith
My Lord, man.
in God? Where's your trust in God? Where is your hope in God? If you truly believe that that is true, believe it.
That's right.
And say, for God I live, for God I die.
What does Selma mean to you?
A lot. Very much bittersweet. Like I told you earlier, I have a lot of family down here, so grandma, uncles, aunties, cousins. That love that I felt in my hometown is a love that I don't think I ever be able to get from anywhere else. But at the same time, the city of Selma it's not the best place to grow up in. It's a lot of violence, a lot of drug problems, a lot of gang problems. It's being such a small city, when COVID came through, it hit us hard. We had tornadoes and hurricanes to come through Selma and rip buildings off the foundation. But even throughout all that, we still Selma. I think Selma has been stagnant for so long to the point the people see that we're due for change, we're due for growth. It's time for us to make a difference. The generations before us, they made their difference. Even before them, they made their difference. It's our time, and I think a lot of us are starting to realize that it has to happen now.
All right. What's the name of this neighborhood, Lawrence?
Well, this is the Rangesdale Annex, but the neighborhood is called Smoky City.
Yeah. So there were people living
Yes,
here right
all
up to
of
the
these-
storm, right?
Yes, there were people living in this when the storm hit.
What did I think when he asked me to come to Selma? I'm like, let's go. When do you want me to show up? Who are we going to speak with? Who are we going to meet with? How can we seek to do something productive? There's nothing to me that is more fundamental than to make sure that your eyes are open, your heart is open, your hand is outstretched, and that you seek to walk with others to improve our individual and shared lives.
I think the work that Harwood does and other organizations is helping us to come to that understanding that it's about us living and learning and growing and maturing together.
In the spirit of the work that we do, it was time to ask questions and to listen, not to pretend that we know something that we don't.
I want to welcome you all to the first annual Stop the Gun Violence. We're going to empower, we're going to educate, and we're going to engage.
Our children deserve this. They deserve a space where adults are intentionally planning for their success.
I think I'm here right now at this point for a reason. I thought I was leaving the community work when I got to the bench, and I was just about to be the judge that I never imagined that it was gonna all come back full circle.
And did something happen while you were sitting on the bench that brought you back to the community work?
Every day.
What is it?
Systemic oppression.
These children in my courtroom have been beaten. They have very little guidance. Sometimes they're from 3 and 4 generations of Department of Human Resources family.
Our system doesn't seem to be attuned to the people that's outside the glass.
For so many years, we've watched the same things, buildings that are dilapidated and potholes in the street, and it's hard for people that have lived here to see this and understand why we're not progressing.
Our younger generation, they come from broken homes, they're impoverished, they just haven't had the right opportunity.
I routinely see 10th, 11th, 12th graders on 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade reading levels. And what has happened is most of your best and brightest have just left.
All of that is happening in Selma right now. But we also have trauma.
In the last 4 months in Selma, Alabama, we have had murders ranging from 14 to 17 years old. We got too many young people with guns. They got them. They got more guns than the police up in here. I'm telling y'all, look at the headlines.
Dallas County tonight, 2 teenagers and a 6-year-old have been shot in Selma.
The shooting happened on a busy Friday night as families were preparing for the weekend.
We have had overdoses with fentanyl.
Selma Police Chief says Xanax, fentanyl, and hydrocodone were found in Junior's system. While at school, the 16-year-old was found unresponsive and later died.
The devil's just throwing stuff out there for y'all to catch. He don't want us grown folks no more. He wants y'all.
When we think about what it means for people to be safe and our kids to be safe and ensure that they can live past the age 19, there needs to be a sense of urgency around that to address it.
You see violence the way that you do here, not just in physical violence. I'm talking about violence in the way we navigate and move for each other. You see that violence because of trauma.
All of these things, if you're a young person, for instance, they begin to envelop you and they begin to sort of seep into your life in ways that traumatize you and that make you believe that there isn't a future. We are losing potentially a generation to a set of circumstances that we actually have the ability to address. This isn't simply about spending more money. It's not simply about more programs. This is a question about, do we have the will and the collective effort to ensure that our youth and all Americans believe that they have a future? Or are we simply willing to write people off and leave them out and leave them behind? I think that's a fundamental challenge we face in society today.
The question was asked somewhere, am I my brother's keeper or am I my sister's keeper? I think that it's important we understand that we have some responsibility to be each other's keeper. So until we actually deal with healing, it will be hard for it to actuate.
But we do have to heal, and we do have to name people's experiences in this place.
You know, I'm a big believer in vision, and where there is no vision, people perish. And I think there's no sense of vision here. And not just vision in that, let's clean up her streets and redo her buildings, but a vision of what we can become as a community.
And to build community is to build human beings.
Now, we will have our sessions at the community center, and we'll sit down and we'll talk across the table to one another. But when we get up and leave the table, there's no coming together to solve problems.
How can we thrive together? Black, white, pink, green, doesn't matter what your color or creed. But how can we come together, get past politics, and let's get some work done?
And people are starting to realize that they're in the same boat. That it don't matter which end of the boat you're in, when the boat spring a leak, everybody going down.
We're a team whether we like it or not. We're gonna rise or fall together.
Either we're gonna grow together or we're gonna grow apart. That choice is up to us.
I have faith in Selma. I think Selma's gonna get back to being a very nice city.
What gives you that hope or faith?
Everybody in Selma just got that fight in their heart. And I feel like their history stems from our ancestors, the people before us, and Selma's just full of fight.
Selma, Alabama, 1965.
What's a story for everybody else is not that for us. These are our people. So where do I get hope? It's our legacy.
Selma is the home of injustice, civil rights, fighting for what you believe in.
We are here and we are standing before the forces of power in the state of Alabama. and turn us around.
Known as Bloody Sunday, in March 1965, civil rights marchers were brutally beaten by law enforcement officers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma.
A lot of bad things happened on that bridge. At the same time, it brought out a lot of good things as well.
Out of that came a sense of hope and a sense of accomplishment, knowing that if we persevere, change does ultimately come to fruition.
I feel like the bridge is a staple of Selma. It's like our beacon of hope.
To me, the significance of Selma is that in 1965, it helped us see the work that we needed to do as a nation and go over the bridge together. Now it can remind us once again of the work we need to do as a nation, and that it's time to go back over the bridge again. But here's the thing. When we move forward, we cannot leave anyone or any community behind, including communities like Selma.
Well, today marks the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of what's known as Bloody Sunday.
We need to do this together. We're meant to go together, and Selma, once again, can help lead the way.
Selma is one place in America that can bring about change and be an example of change if we step up and do it. And I want to be a part of making that happen.
If we choose differently right now, I think it would be just as historic what we can do with grassroots organizing here as it was in '65.
Of course, I do believe in this little town. More than the town, I believe in its people. The spirit of community is very much alive here.
I want to show people you can be from Selma, and even as a young person, you don't have to wait till you get older, and you don't even necessarily have to get out of Selma. You can be right here and you can make a name for yourself in the city.
I believe we need to sound a call that in order to restore our belief in ourselves and in this nation, we don't need more divisive politics. The change we need must begin in our local communities. And to do that, we need to get on a new civic path where we can turn outward toward one another, where we can uphold one another's dignity, where we can figure out amid our real differences what we can agree on and how we can get moving forward together. Look, what I'm seeing across the country, including in Selma, is that people are ready to go.
It's all for all of us. It's time for the generation to come together to let our future grow. It's time for all races to come together, everybody walk hand in hand.
I feel a sense of urgency that I have to do something more, and I want to help not only just the Black community, but all communities, because everybody matters.
What gives you hope about the future?
People like him, people like me, people like you, that's where the power is at. It's not in one or two people, it's in coming together.
And it's so incredible to see all the young people around here. Like, they're here, they understand the assignment and ready to do it. It's pretty clear, so they give me hope.
It felt like there was nothing else we could do but be in community and be together. But it is community and what we are building here that is so powerful and what is going to elevate us in the future, what we continue to do.
Whether it's in Selma or in communities all across this country, we are meant to go together. We are meant to be together. Now is our time. Let's go back over the bridge.
We thank you, O God, for your goodness and your mercy. We thank you for the privilege of being in Selma. And, oh God, give us the grace and wisdom and knowledge to understand that you have blessed us, that you've caused your face to shine upon us, and you've been gracious and merciful unto us. And so, Lord, we ask you to strengthen us, to grow us, to mold us and shape us as a city. And this we pray Amen. Amen. Amen.
Hope you enjoyed that. It's time for a panel discussion with three of our friends from Selma who will be highlighted here in a moment. There's Carey, just waiting for two others. Okay, so I just want to welcome to this evening Carey Fountain, who's Director of Programs and Partnerships at Foot Soldiers Park, which is a really significant organization in Selma. Judge Vernetta Perkins Walker, who is the district judge who you saw in the film for Dallas County, and the Reverend Lawrence Wofford, who is president of the NAACP of Selma-Dallas County chapter. Lawrence, I want to start with you if I can. When when the event was over, it was interesting. People came up to me, a lot of people came up to me and said, that was like going to church. That was like going to church. And I'm curious, why do you think people had that reaction? What do you think they were talking about? And just make sure you take yourself off mute.
I think I may be unmuted now.
You are. Good to hear you.
It's heard. I think fundamentally at our core, we are a spiritual people. That is what has shaped us. In too many ways, we have lost a lot of it. But at our finest, we are people who have been forged in fire of spirituality. And so when that's what molded and shaped us. And so when we hear these conversations at that level, it becomes intuitively a very spiritual moment. So that is what I think many of those who made those comments were alluding to. It is from whence we came. It is the fire that has shaped us and brought us through. That's from where we were raised.
Mm-hmm.
That's that fulcrum in our existence.
I'm that Jeremy person.
Yeah. Vernetta, we did that panel together after the film was shown. And what's your sense of what that spiritual moment meant for people? Why, what people were expressing in that moment?
The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few sometimes. And I think what we saw was a plentiful harvest. The people in Selma are so hungry right now for change. They're hungry for healthy. They're hungry for renewal. They're hungry for revival. They're hungry for that spirit that we described in the film to be alive again. We've known so much oppression of different types over the years. And I think something organic is happening again. A movement is happening again. People are beginning to organize again, meet again, discuss again, figure things out again, ask the tough questions again. So there's this organic movement that's just happening because of what's happening in the country and the world. And Selma is a little bit of everything. It's a small pot of everything you see everywhere else. And we have all of those things centralized where everybody knows everybody else. And to hear life happening, to be reminded of who we are, to see who we can be, to realize that where we are is not who we are. I think that's what you felt. You felt a revival and that breath that comes to give us life in the room and saying, oh my God, this can do this. What you felt was hope and inspiration. And for us, that manifests in the place where we usually culturally in our community find hope and inspiration, which is church.
Yeah, it's interesting because as I travel around the country on this campaign for New Civic Path, one of the things that I'm struck by is people essentially saying what you just said, which is where we are is not who we are, right? No matter where I go, no matter who people voted for, no matter what they feel about politics in any particular issue, the message I keep hearing is that we can do better and be better, that we can do better and be better as individuals, that we can do better and be better as communities, that we can do better and be better as a country. And for me, when I'm in Selma, which is, I have deep affection for, uh, you can feel that spirit. And it would be real easy. This is one of the things I need to say as someone who doesn't live in Selma, because so many of the images and stories we hear about Selma are rooted in abandoned buildings. They're rooted in the potholes when you drive down the street. We hear about the murders, but we don't hear about the folks. We hear about people going down to go over the bridge for a pilgrimage, but we don't actually hear about the people and the spirit of Selma, much like I think we often forget in the rest of the country about our own spirit and our own people. So, Carey, I remember at the end of the film, you and I were standing in front, and then we started walking towards the back of the room. I don't know if you remember this. And you said to me, we were talking about the film and people's reaction, but then you stopped and you turned and said to me, Rich, this actually had an effect on me personally. And you remember that moment?
I do. Yeah.
What do you remember about him? What were you saying at that time?
Well, I think it was really powerful. It really reinstilled hope and just the importance of the necessity of hope to bring about change. And I think it was the language, it was very practical, the way the program went and the way that we all spoke. It just felt like practical language and just a practical plan forward and step forward, which I think also brought some of that church feeling.
Mm.
It really felt like we were highlighting, real stories, and a collective vision that really just resonated on a soul level instead of just an intellectual level. So that impacted me a lot.
Yeah, and you said to me at one point that it made you, as you were sitting there during the evening, it made you think more deeply about your own purpose.
Hmm.
And what
Yeah.
did you have in mind when you said that?
Yeah, I think it just made me realize as I'm serving in the way I'm serving with Foot Soldiers Park, um, just sometimes when you're doing this work, especially in a nonprofit space and working with nonprofits as long as I have, it can sometimes feel like your work, you can feel like you're doing it in a silo or a vacuum, and it can feel exhausting or like you're not really making a difference or impact. Um, And I think often my mind likes to move, 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 move. And there are a few times you're like, be patient and just realizing that it's about momentum and creating action. It's not necessarily about having to get to the finish line right away, because that's not what this work is. This work is about everyone taking a collective effort and putting one foot in front of the other, and strengthening each other's weaknesses and uplifting each other's strengths. So, yeah.
Yeah, it actually speaks to what you're just saying. Actually speaks to, so what, in a country where we're suffering from a crisis of belief, and I think we need to restore a sense of belief. The question that comes up is what actually engenders belief. And Lawrence, I'm wondering if I can come back to you on this, because you and I have spoken about this many times. For a place like Selma, but also for our country, what engenders a sense of belief that we can actually move forward?
I would suggest to you that it is a deep and abiding faith. Um, I am convinced that the proposition is, if we can conceive it, if we can believe it, we can achieve it, and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is, to me, this faith, this deep and abiding faith that we have seen in our lives, that has given us the opportunity to, through some very trying and trying, serious situations, to overcome and to achieve and to move forward. We're enduring that at this very in our history. And so how do we see that? How do we endure that? But by knowing that we've been this way before.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we have not been this, but our ancestors have been this way, and they left us a diagram, and they left us a paradigm of how to proceed to overcome. And eventually that paradigm is one of faith, belief. And so I think that is part of what we have to restore, and that sense of hope. For in many cases in our community, we have no hope. And we are dying on the vine because we have lost our sense of faith.
Yeah.
Community that we had at a different point. But I think it's there. It can be reconstituted. We just have to be about the business of doing it.
Right. Which is actually one of the reasons why we came to want to do this film, right? We didn't start off, as I mentioned earlier, even imagining something like this. It was never in our line of sight. But, I think so many Americans think about Selma as something about our history, but not something about our future. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to do this was to remind us, as you just said, Lawrence, of our past and the reasons why we should have faith and hope that we've done it before, we can do it again. But also to say that Selma is on the march again, right? Selma is moving forward again. And I think it's Selma and communities like Selma that can help remind us that we have more work to do and that no one gets left behind. No one. All means all. Which, Vernetta, leads me to this question for you. And I've heard you speak many times now on this. Why does Selma need to get on a new civic path?
Because the path we're on right now ain't working. We've had a lot of oppression in Selma, various types. And when you look at us from the outside, those buildings, those potholes, especially after the tornado, which ripped half of our city apart, we look a mess. But like we said, the spirit of Selma is still strong. And I think somewhere between 1965 and the present, we started looking to the government for all of our answers. At some point, our stories became things that we take pictures for, things that we let people come and commemorate and celebrate. But somewhere in the midst of that, I think we forgot who we are. And I think my wake up call was at my grandmother's funeral in March, even though I've been raised this way and been doing this work. But something happened to me in my grandmother's funeral in March. I realized who my grandmother and grandfather were and what they went through in Selma and what kind of people they were and what dignity they had and how they stood and how they built. The community that I grew up in Selma, the one that prepared me to go to Spelman and prepared me to go to law school and prepared me to be a lawyer and a judge, that Selma was not built by the government. That Selma was built by the people, because the government wasn't for us back in the day. Back in 75, we still had the same mayor in 1975 that we had in 1965 on the Eyes on the Prize video. That mayor didn't leave until 2000, until our current mayor overthrew that 35-year regime. My point was that all of the things that were in my community, the things that built me, all of these institutions that I'm a product of, a family, a church family, a community family, a social family, all of these organizational sub-communities we had within the communities work together as an ecosystem to build healthy youth, right? And I think somewhere as we started to get all of these rights and get all of these offices, we forgot that the power was in us, in the people. And because things in this country have gotten very rough for a lot of people and gotten rough for our communities with violence, murder, poverty, all of these things that you have to intentionally solve for, I think we lost a little bit of that. And I think sometimes pressure bursts those diamonds open and it makes you remember who you are. And I think that's what's happening.
And what's the new Civic Path going to do? Why is the new Civic Path so important in that context?
The Civic Path is so important because it's reimagining how we do community in a way that works for us instead of against us, and realizing nobody's going to come in and give us that answer, and that we have to organize around the things that we have a lot more in common than we have apart in Selma, but we lack the social infrastructure to have those intentional conversations. And you would think that we would, because people come and take the pictures and commemorate, but some of that was lacking. And that's why you heard Ms. Nichols from the library say, get over the politics. Well, now the politics in Selma is spread all over the world. You're seeing it politically everywhere. But that spirit of the people, change is going to happen from the bottom up, not the top down. And if anywhere in the country understands that, is Selma. And now we're being revived with that. The generation, intergenerational. Carey's one generation. I'm a middle generation. Reverend Wofford's another generation. This is an intergenerational revival that's happening. All of us are waking up to who we are, because for the first time, we don't have a choice. And no one is coming to save us, just like no one was coming to save us in 1965. And so we've begun to remember those things and not just take pictures, but I want to become Dr. Reese and Amelia Boynton. Dr. Reese was my childhood pastor. I grew up in Ebenezer. These are not just figures in the movie. That's my pastor and my grandmama and my granddaddy and Miss Johnson and Miss Boynton. And those are people that I know and have close relationship with and growing up. And so some of the things that we might have lost in society, becoming individualistic, just chasing our career goals, life has forced us back to ourselves to remember who we are and that we are better together. So we're reimagining those things, waking up to who we are, creating spaces to have those tough conversations so that we can be the change that we want to see.
Great. So, Carey, I've got about a minute here, but I do want to ask you, as at least among the four of us here, you're the youngest, the other generation that Vernetta was just talking about. What gives you hope for the future, given your work in Selma that you do each and every day at Foot Soldiers Park?
Ooh, well, I think, what gives me hope is definitely knowing there's always a tomorrow. There's always a new day. And, specifically when it comes to Selma, something that I notice is I think the history of Selma is known amongst the people, the youth. Um, and I think what happens is if like we rely too much on the historical moments that have happened here without addressing the present day challenges, what can happen is it turns a legacy kind of into a museum piece, which I think we see in Selma. So, I think we have to, and what a new civic path does is honoring how do we have to ask ourselves the question, how do we honor what was and still make sure we're building what must be? Um, so, I have hope in kind of in thinking about that and and letting that kind of drive and motivate the work that I do in Selma. And I think just the mission of the organization that I, work with, I think, that gives me hope that it's those steps forward, that small steps forward, and always just remembering not to forget the history and using the history to build the brighter future through a collective vision, and knowing it was never meant to be something done by ourselves as individuals. And that also gives me hope too, because it takes the pressure off a little bit. So, I think those things all kind of compound together to make me wake up, despite everything else going on in the larger world right now. It gives me hope and puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, that's great. It reminds me of that part of our history is that we're always creating something. We are an imperfect country, and as we all know, we were founded on a number of stains on our civic fabric, and we have continually sought, sometimes not effectively, but continually sought to become a more perfect union, knowing that we'll never get there, but that our job is to keep fighting to move forward. But that requires that we actually always need to begin anew again. That, as you just said, we need to have a memory, as we talked about when I was in Selma last. Our memory is really important to remember what happened, why we needed to act, where we came from. But we also need to remind ourselves that we actually are responsible for creating what's next. And it seems that to me is what the new civic path is about, that we have to come together, all of us, to create what's next. So let me thank you, Carey, for being here tonight and for all the wonderful work that I know you do in Selma. To Vernetta, thank you for your dedication, your eloquence, and for being here tonight. And Lawrence, thank you for our long relationship and your leadership in Selma and throughout the state of Alabama. So thank you for being here.
Could I just share just one point that I think is critical and brief. In 1963, there was a man who came to Selma and stayed 2 years before the movement took place. He spent 2 years working in Selma. That that civic path did not just open in 1960. It was being built. And so I think that probably part of what we are doing now is reopening that door to the future. So I just want to just throw that out there for what it's worth.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thanks for joining us tonight. In the few minutes we have left, I just wanted to reemphasize that I think, as we all know, that we've had enough divisive politics in this country, and yet our path forward is not to surrender to it. Our path forward is not to wallow in despair, though that might be good to do for an hour here and there. Our path forward is not simply to engage in resistance, so there's a long tradition of resistance in America, and it's an important part of our tradition, but we also have to be able to articulate what we're for. where we want to go. And tonight, for me at least, tonight is an articulation of where we've been, where we are, and where we seek to go. And as Vernetta said, you know, the only way to seek where we want to go is to create it. We've got to do it. And we've got to do it together. We need each other. We're human beings. We're meant to go together. We're meant to be together. I think this notion of a new civic path, this campaign that we're doing, is taking hold and spreading so quickly because I think people are saying we've got to put people over politics in this country. That it's time that we came and healed, that it's time that we found ways to restore our sense of belief in ourselves and one another. We can actually come together as Americans, as human beings, and move things forward. And as I've been on the road, including in Selma, people always ask me, well, how can I become part of this campaign? So I want to leave you with some ways in which you can become part of this campaign and take action starting this evening, actually. We want to make sure that the story of Selma once again becomes the story of America. And so if you enjoyed this short film, if it spoke to you, if it inspired you, if it challenged you, go to YouTube, go to the Harwood Institute page, like the film, leave a comment, because as you all know, we need to get in the algorithm for more people to see this across the country, and we want people to see it. Second, you can use the film to engage others in a discussion about where we are and where we need to go, right? Every community faces its own challenges. Every community in America wants to move forward. Every community in America needs to come together to do the work. I would argue that every community in America needs to get on a new civic path. So you can use the film as a discussion starter. And in fact, we have discussion questions around the film that you can use. So we urge you to do that. In addition, you can get in touch with the Institute, and we're happy to come do an event with you so that you can show this and engage in a conversation in your community. Next, we're in September going to be announcing house parties. We know people want to talk about the new civic path in their communities. So we're going to put together a kit for people to do that so people can bring their neighbors, their friends, their colleagues, their fellow residents and communities together in their own homes, in their own workplaces, to begin to talk about what a new civic path means for them, how they can get on it, and how we can get more folks in motion. And if you haven't read the book, The New Civic Path, we urge you to order it from Amazon or from the Institute. It's a quick read. It's a good read, and we ask you to do that. And then lastly, like all campaigns, I've never said this or asked this of folks, but like all campaigns, we need resources. This campaign, this documentary is all being self-funded by the Institute. Every single penny of it is being self-funded by the Institute. And so this is the first time we're saying to folks anywhere that if you can, make a donation. If you believe in this campaign, if you believe in this message, if you believe that America needs to get on a new civic path, if you believe we need to get away from more divisive politics, then I would urge you to donate to this campaign so that we can keep it going and keep spreading it all across this country. So thanks to Hugo for your eloquent words to kick us off this evening. Thanks to Judge Perkins, thanks to Reverend Wofford, thanks to Carey Fountain. Thanks to each of you for being here this evening and caring about Selma and caring about the civic health of this country and about our shared future moving forward. Let's stay in touch. Let's go together. We're meant to go together. We got some work to do in this country. Let's get on with it. Thanks so much for being here. Have a good evening.